Whatever happens around us, be it in the economy or in socio-political spheres and the international arena, has a large influence on our thoughts and our lives. Recently, Chile, a Latin American nation, had its presidential elections, and it has elected Chile's youngest president, Gabriel Boric, of 35 years old. He is the second millennial to lead in Latin America after El Salvador's Nayib Bukele. Boric claimed 55.8% of the votes counted to defeat Antonio Costa, who got 44.1% of the votes. Mr. Boric's inauguration will not take place until March 11, 2022 due to certain reasons. This election candidate and campaign are worth studying due to the highlighting changes, ideas, events, and perspectives. It also portrays a minuscule picture of governance opportunities and challenges that countries across the world would be encountering in the future. So the first one of it is young leadership. So on the day Mr. Boric won his election, to meet the citizens, he had to jump over a fence and to get to the podium, and he did it without any hesitations. As rightly reported by the journalist, this was a step to welcome millennial politics, the Chilean style. It also showed to the Chilean and the world that there will be less formality and stringent protocols to be followed under his new governance. His fierce speech indicated that young generations certainly know what they want and know how to get there. The goal is to set the right intentions, to work for the people, which of course has to be followed by the actions taken. The Geneville in Chile was found to celebrate his win on a larger scale. His style of working and governing would be something worth witnessing. Then we come to the second point where we talk about humans at the center of development. In his campaign, Mr. Boric has talked a lot about reforms and changes that he wants to bring for the people of Chile, for their benefit. Boric's progressive campaign includes ambitious promises which reflected momentous generational shift underway in Chile. He has pledged to raise taxes on the rich to fund public spending and welfare programs. Civic involvement and confidence in the government have also declined as the centrist duopoly that dominated politics left voters feeling increasingly detached from the politics. So he wants to take hike taxes, curb profitable mining operations, and reserve half the seat of corporate boards for the workers. He is increasingly listening to more moderate economists newly integrated into his camp. Their rational policy prescriptions may prove politically impossible precisely because of the environment Mr. Boric has helped to create. According to the experts, Chile faces no serious problems which minor reforms couldn't fix. Mr. Boric has promised to govern for the benefits of all Chileans, not just for those who voted for him. This will also mean broadening his coalition if he wants his legislative program to be approved and enacted. The current constitution of the country was written during the military dictatorship in 1980. The country couldn't move forward with this constitution if want a more equal country. There was a political agreement from all forces including Boric. It has a huge support. But now there is a constitutional convention writing the draft, and in 6 months from now there will be another referendum to approve or reject the draft. If the referendum is lost and the draft is rejected, it will be hard for Boric to move forward with his reform. So, for Boric, it's vital to approve this constitution. The willingness of people to change. The willingness of people to change would play a vital role in the reforms that he wants to bring for the nation. Then he talks about reducing inequalities. So, once the most stable economy in Latin America, Chile has one of the world's largest income gaps, with 1% of the population owning 25% of country's wealth. And this is according to the United Nations. While the economy grew robustly, the economic gains tended to be concentrated at the top of the income distribution and clustered in coastal metropolises. Even though Chileans' relative standard of living continued to increase over the same period, its Gini coefficient, which measures the wealth concentration, has declined at the same time. Mr. Boric has promised to address this inequality by expanding social rights and reforming Chile's pensions and healthcare system, as well as reducing the work week from 45 to 40 hours, and then boosting green investment. He also wants to make Chile more inclusive than before. Mr. Boric confirmed that his cabinet will be gender equal, saying that women will be the protagonists, that he hopes to incorporate those beyond Santiago to recognize the diversity and heterogeneity of our country. Then he talks about the natural resources and economy. So, Mr. Boric prioritizes a green, sustainable post pandemic recovery. The president elect also promised to block a controversial proposed mining project, which he would say destroy communities and the national environment. Chile is the world's largest copper producer. Chile's economy is highly dependent on international trade, which represented 56.8% of the country's GDP in 2019. The country mainly exports copper, which accounts for nearly half of its exports. Chile's export basket consists of natural commodities. Therefore, before putting restriction on it, Boric government will have to study the economic impact of the same on the economy and the people involved. Its top export partners are China, USA, Japan, South Korea, and Brazil. Chile's import partners are China, USA, Brazil, and Argentina. Given the pandemic and the economic recession Chile has been through in the past 2 years, capital flight has been rampant. Chile's currency, the peso, plunged to record a low against the US dollar after Mr. Boric's victory. Stock markets fell by 10%, with mining stocks performing particularly bad. Investors are worried about the stability and profits due to higher taxes and tighter government regulation of business. The Boric government will have to perform a fine tuning between economic progress and environmental protection. This would reflect in building the relationship and trust with investors, which would make sure that the economy receives funds for welfare and developmental purposes. Then we come to the point where we're talking about international dynamics. So, Mr. Boric winning the election has been a welcoming change for several countries. Leaders across Latin America and the Caribbean congratulated the new president elect. Mexico's government has invited Chilean President elect Gabriel Boric to visit as the two countries vote to forge a strategic alliance once the leader takes office. Iran is content with the fact that Mr. Boric has duly recognized the Palestine community in the country. Some reports are paving Chile's way towards socialism. Its top trading partner, China, is yet to give any reaction to the new changes that Mr. Boric aims to bring in for his country that directly impact their trade relationship.